you. The time is 6:34, and I will call the special meeting of June 20th, 2023 to order. Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Clark. Here. Corcoran. Here. Davis. Alvin.
Here.
Hoda.
Here.
Madison.
Here.
And Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Davis did let me know she would not be in attendance tonight, so she's obviously not in town. I know we tried hard to get a date that would work for everyone, but it was kind of difficult, so she would be excused from the meeting. The agenda has been circulated and shared. Other issues the agenda is presented. Hearing none, then we'll accept the why don't we just approve the agenda by unanimous consent? Is there any objection to doing so? Hearing that the agenda is hereby approved. We go on presentations. We have one tonight from Dr. Jenna Hill, Chief Financial Officer, relative to the 2023-24 budget and certification of tax levy, as well as the final budget amendment for 2022-23. Dr. Hill, floor is yours.
Okay, I'm all set. All right. Well, good evening to my Board of Education members, community, and friends.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No.
I don't think the mic's on.
Yeah, like this.
Oh, there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's good.
Good evening,
Yeah, there you go.
Board of Education members, community, staff, and friends. Tonight I am presenting our fiscal year 23 final budget and our proposed fiscal year 24 original budget. Now, before I get started with the budget presentation, what is also and under consideration is our 2023 tax rate request, and it is labeled and called the L4029.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Good evening, Board of Education members, community and friends. I'm talking tonight about the fiscal year 2023 final budget and proposed 2024 original budget. And also under consideration this evening is our 2023 tax rate request. It's labeled and called the L4029, and it is our levy request that we will be requesting from the community. We do a summer levy. All of our taxes are levied in the summer. And so I will review that request first, and after each item that I talk about, I'm going to open up the floor to the Board of Education for any questions that you may have regarding what was discussed. So the first discussion is about the 2023 tax rate request, and it is in front of you, and it's labeled the L4029. And I just want you to know that what goes into the compilation of this levy is, I prepare it first, then it's reviewed by Baker Tilly, and then it's reviewed by Oakland County to make sure that we don't over levy our community and that our numbers are correct based on Oakland County's L4028. And according to their L4028, our 2023 taxable value amount is $506,261,947, and that's through Oakland County. And then for our local school districts 2023 taxable value amount, it is $274,057. Okay, so this is the taxes, this is the value of the taxes that, we have access to levy. And then, we levy an operating tax to support the district's operating expenses. And for operating taxes to be levied, it's going to be a total of 17.45. Now, I just want everybody to know that districts legally have the right to levy 18 mills. And currently, we're only going to be levying 17.45 mills. And if you look at column 10, you'll see that in the operating non-pre, we're only levying 16.1172, and the operating non-pre, we will be levying 1.3427, and this levy ends in 2023. We do a summer tax levy, so we get to benefit off of this 1.3427 this time, but we really need to go out to the voters and ask for this to be renewed so that we can go back up to the 18 mills.
When are we doing that? When are we doing that?
Well, I've already sent an email to our attorney, and he talked to me about the timeline. He said that we need to be on the November ballot, and basically we need board approval for that new millage election, that new levy, by no later than the August board meeting to be able to meet the November ballot.
To get back to 18?
Yes, to be able to get back to the 18 mills that we are legally able to levy as a district.
But
Yes,
this year, we're going to be at 17.459 no matter what.
no matter what.
Now, when that happens, doesn't the state penalize us for not collecting the full 18 mills?
It's not called a penalty.
I understand that.
Okay.
But it has the impact, it means that when we're figuring our budget, we have to recognize that the state is going to withhold that money from our funding.
It means that what happens is, it's a different revenue stream. It's through taxes via Rollo, Oak Park, and Southfield. What happens is, the tax deposits that we'll get in, it won't be up to the 18 mills. It'll only be 17.45 mills, and it is less money.
But when the state calculates our state aid payment, they calculate based on assuming that we're collecting 18 mills.
That is
right?
correct.
So when we're budgeting for that, we have to consider that. Do we have an idea of what that dollar amount is going to be that we would not be receiving in state aid?
It's not, it's what we will not be receiving in taxes. Instead of receiving the Michigan Department of Education, they look at our district budgeting at the 18 mills. We will lose the difference between 18 mills and the 17.45. So you're talking about 0.15 mills. It's a small amount. I estimate it to be maybe about $25,000.
Okay.
Because you're talking about 0.15.
1.5 or 5.1?
0.54.
See, we can only levy 18 mills.
Yeah.
So if you subtract 18 minus 17.45, isn't that 0.5 or did I?
That's
say that?
0.54.
0.541, yeah.
Yes, 0.54.
So it's about a little more than half a mil.
Yes.
In our
Okay.
okay.
So we're gonna lose that. Okay, so you figure, they say a mill is, you figure
Okay, we're gonna lose that difference this time around.
And that's only on non-homestead properties.
Yes, that is correct. And I want to say, I understand what you're saying, but we look at it separately. When the Department of Treasury calculates our state aid, they calculate our state aid based on 18 mills. We're going to lose the difference between 17.45 and the 18 mills.
And you said about 25,000?
Yes, and we just lose that, because we're not able to levy it through the counties. Okay, we're not able to levy it through Oak Park, Royal Oak, or Southfield. We're gonna lose that. And that's why we need to go back to taxpayers in order to move us back up to 18 mills, because we don't want to leave any taxes that the district is able to levy on the table. That's what it is.
Couldn't we have done that sooner so we wouldn't be losing it?
We could have done it sooner, but we have to, it's done different times of the year, and it goes according to the elections in place.
And it's done once every 10 years, correct? That's what I'm reading here, that the last time you went out was in 2004.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's 20 years.
19 years ago.
19 years. Is that the last time they went out for it?
Yes.
But that was for the cushion amount.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
So you lose money every year, and then you add the cushion amount. Yes, we didn't go out. The short answer is,
We're
we
going out now.
we did not go out.
That's
That's the
correct.
answer to it. You did not go out, and so you're gonna lose about, let's just say to be safe, double that 25,000, say
Yes.
50,000.
About 50 grand.
And then so the tax rate for the property taxes that our residents, people who live in Oak Park, are going to be paying on their properties is going to be 5.4599. So, and on business properties or non-homestead properties, that's going to be 17.4599.
You know what? It says commercial personal for 5.45. It's called commercial personal. Commercial,
That sounds like what you would describe.
yeah. It's,
Okay, so is that a mistake because our,
yeah, it's called, they call it commercial personal with that 5.4599. And then, the other tax rates is on the non-residential properties.
so again, so my house that I own, I'm going to be paying 5.4599 mils for
No,
that.
it's commercial, which means
And it
business.
wouldn't be your house.
Okay, so
It
then,
also says personal, so what's the personal part?
so what is the tax rate for homeowners?
Residential, it's, the taxes is levied against the business properties. It's not levied against the residential.
So what is the rate for residential?
It's go,
Would it be on the same L-4029 form?
see, the way that it is described, it's, you see at the top here, the second bar, it says the school district of the city of Oak Park, and it says for local school districts, 2023, taxable value excluding principal residence.
So this is not for your residency
So,
one.
the taxes are not levied against residential. I just want to make that plain.
But they're, okay, so because the residential taxes is a state issued tax, that's not a, okay, I think I'm understanding it now.
Oh, okay.
The six mills that every homeowner pays, that's levied by the state of Michigan. So that's not something we have to pass here.
No.
What we pass here is the sinking fund and the debt, but my understanding was that does go,
See,
that homeowners are paying sinking fund and debt
Yeah, the sinking fund you have to vote on, and same thing with this Headley. The voters have to, you authorize the school district to go in to get the cushion to get us to the max 18.
Right, so then on this form, where for principal residence is left blank, I'm concerned that we're not levying the sinking fund and debt millages that were passed by voters on principal residences.
That is correct. See,
Wait,
school districts, let me tell you, it just simply, because I had the same conversation with, years ago with the county. But see, at the top where it says, for local school districts, 2022, 2023, taxable value, and it excludes principal residence, qualified architectural, qualified forest, and industrial personal and commercial personal properties.
But we still need to levy taxes on the personal residential properties. And so if we don't pass that here, how is that going to be addressed?
See, that's not what school districts don't levy taxes against the principal residence. That's why you see it blank.
I don't think that's correct.
so I think you guys are speaking two different things. Here you're asking about principal residency. I think this form is discussing Headley. You're absolutely taxing the sinking fund because the voters had to approve that, and when is that set to expire?
The sinking fund expires in 2036.
So that's not touched by the Headley. That is not touched by
Sure it is.
anything.
Where it's touched by Headley in that we're going, instead of collecting 3 mills, which is what was voted on, we're collecting 2.7636. So of course, every property tax is touched by Headley.
Because the Headley rollback is what you're saying.
Right. But I just want to just say this, with the law, school districts, we don't levy the principal residence, and that's why you see it blank. And, this has been vetted by the county, and it's been vetted by Baker Tilly, and we just put, we're only levying 5.4599 for commercial personal, and then for all other. And then, let me see.
Was any of this discussed? Because like when I came in July, nothing was discussed with, when I reviewed your financial, nothing was discussed that was coming up. So was this something new that?
No, my concern isn't about the Headley. That's in the past. My concern is on this document. If we file this with the state, with the county and with the city of Oak Park, from what I can see here, we are going to be not levying our sinking fund and debt millages on principal residences, which that's money the voters have passed. That's different from every tax rate request I've seen in my time on the board. Usually we have the amount we're levying on, and it seems to me that's because I don't really understand the difference between, unless we're saying that commercial personal here is referring to homestead, which is again the house that I live in, that you live in, Dr. Hill.
But why would that be commercial?
See,
I don't know. That's a question.
So we don't
So that's why I want to clarify. I want to make sure we're not
I'll
about
personally
to
ask Baker Tilly to give us a report going back 10 years.
yeah.
As, can we do that, Sharice? Just ask Baker Tilly to generate a report as Headley rolls back. How many times have we gone back into?
No.
No, I just want to get. I'm trying to get a better understanding of your concern.
But that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, if we approve this on next week, will that mean that we are not levying property taxes on principal residences in Oak Park, which which is what voters voted for in passing the bond? And so when Dr. Hill is saying to us that school districts don't levy taxes on principal residences, that does not sound correct to me.
And see, if you look at the directions at the
That's the
back,
second page.
we're gonna get clarification for you that's clear.
Can
But
they
if you
table
look-
this?
10-11 together.
Can they table this portion until June 26th?
Well, we're not passing it tonight, we're passing it on June
Yeah.
26th.
Okay, so-
I'm asking this question so we can get an answer before.
So we'll get the answer, that way we're not hung up on this piece of it, so I could get clarity, so I could go back and get you more information, and we'll have a report for you specifically on this
Yeah.
by the finance department.
Trustee Corcoran.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna ask, can't you go back in your board book and you can see this,
That's
from the
what I'm-
last time?
That's what I'm looking for here, and I'm
Okay.
not
I was
seeing
saying
it
we
in
can-
here. I
Yeah,
see
'cause
the
it should-
agenda
It should be the
and the
same.
minutes, but I don't see the actual document from previous years. But maybe I'm not understanding how. And, yeah.
All right, I have additional questions, but I'll follow up
Yes,
offline, because I have more than just that.
okay.
All right, anything else on this document tonight? So we're gonna get an answer back on that question from trustee White, right?
Yeah, we'll give you a good, clear definition, you know, and it also has instructions on column 2, and it says excluding principal residence. But I'm gonna give you a clear, you know, language so that you can really, you know, there's no question.
And if we could get a written opinion from
Yes.
Baker Tilly
Yes.
on the actual amounts that he has,
Absolutely.
that the board has concerns with,
Yes.
get a written opinion from Baker Tilly, and then we could share that written opinion with the board, and then,
Sooner than later, okay.
yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
the good news for our residents and for our businesses is that their millage is going, their tax rate is going down significantly. When does the city of Oak Park need this from us? In
They're
order to
gonna
levy
levy
the taxes
taxes
July
July
1?
1st,
Right.
so, you know, absolutely,
But
so,
as long as we do it before then, they're okay.
yes.
Because I remember in the past, they've told us they need it whenever to process it before then.
Yeah, so, you know, I'll get the clear language for you, it's no problem, because they vetted it before I gave it to you, so
Okay.
it's no problem.
Okay,
All righty? All right, moving on, we're gonna look at fiscal year 2023, the final budget, and just some highlights that I want to talk about with fiscal year '23. So my revenue assumptions is, you know, local revenue, basically just changing by $147,000, and that is basically property taxes. If you look in your packet, it's the first one. Oh, is it just?
I got it.
Oh, okay, it's the second document. So if you look in your packet, it's the second document. And then you want to look at the third column over where it says fiscal year '23, final budget amendment, where the total local revenue is $5.2 million. You see it as $5,273,970. And then you see a breakdown of what those things are. You know, we basically have property taxes levied at $4.7 million, some interest, student activity, revenues that have come into the district as well as latchkey, revenue that came in for building use, okay? And then, the second revenue source is our state revenue sources. And you see the breakdown there, our state revenue being $45,210,122, and that's to accommodate the new state grants that came in, basically that we were awarded, like the mental health grants and the 97 school safety grants. We've gotten a couple of those. 97, 97C, 97D, with me just highlighting those things. Federal sources, we raised it a little bit to the tune of $15.1 million to include some more grants. We're currently operating about $21 million worth of grant funding. And so, you know, I'm recognizing only 15.1 at this point, because I believe that that's what we'll be able to get through and recognize or be reimbursed for by June 30th. And then the intermediate sources, with our largest revenue source being from Oakland schools, is coming in at about $2.8 million. So that's, that is the ISD as well as Michigan Works.
I see the Oakland Schools grant. It's, the function says CFE. It's on our first amendment, we were budgeting $291,523. And then now we're budgeting $21,670. Why is there such a huge difference there of about $270,000?
So I trued up this grant funding source, and that was the difference. Because it looks like, you know, it looks like the reason why there's a variance is because a lot of that revenue was recognized between July and August of last year. And we have until 60 days after June 30th to recognize revenue, okay? So in this particular situation, we had revenue to come in between that time period, which was recognized in the prior year. So I made an adjustment. Because at this time, we're closing out grant funds and we're getting ready for the audit and we're chewing up our numbers.
So this came in the previous year, so if we look back at last year, you'd see probably about that much over. Is that what you're telling me?
What I'm saying,
Does my logic make sense? So we're short here. There's a variance of a negative about 270K, right?
Yes.
And it sounded like what you were saying is we got it in the previous year,
between July and August.
but you recognize that as part of the previous budget?
Revenue,
That's part of the previous one,
Yes.
not this one.
right.
So my question is, if I look back at last year's, we would see
We should see the
an
adjustment,
additional 270, ballpark
Right.
70K, is that what you're telling me?
right.
Okay, all right.
Well, wouldn't it vary by different CFOs? Some draw it all down, some draw it down after, so you'd have to compare.
What do you mean draw it down? What does that mean?
So that's what you're doing here, right? You drew it down. So they presented you a budget in June with certain revenue, but they didn't claim that revenue until after, between July and August, they drew it down. So if it would have been denied, and then correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misspeaking here, because if the Oakland schools wouldn't have recognized that, or they would have said it's not factual, then they wouldn't have brought.
Right, it's a timing issue.
Yeah, and in many cases, especially with the ESSER dollars in Title I sometime in that case, the years are multi-year funded. So when you look at your ESSER 2 and 3, you can spend those grants over 2 and 3 year periods. So when you closed out last year, you could have been in the middle of getting some revenue coming in, or even some bills paid that you had to pull back. So I agree with Mr. Abdullahat that you may not see that exact difference because it's a timing thing.
Right.
Some charges may be out there, but the commodities or the services or the products weren't received, so you pull the money back, and then vice versa. There was more spending that took place, closed out by September 30th, and we kept it going. So it's a timing piece. But with the multi-year grants, it's just hard to
Right.
kind of keep up with it.
And with the prior year budget, like Angel said, it is based on CFO. They didn't have to necessarily recognize that even though it was in place during that time. Just like, for example, with my federal funding, I know that I have been awarded $21 million for the current year, but I'm not recognizing all of it because I don't believe that I can spend all of it in the current year. Because the ending date, of certain grants, they don't all end June 30. So I don't necessarily have to stand here and tell you that I'm gonna get all that revenue in by June 30, when I know that certain grants end sometime in the next fiscal year.
All right, I'll take that question offline too. Okay.
Okay, so I hope I explained that okay. So revenues, total revenues is about 68.4 million there. And then, just looking at the federal sources, coming up to 5.1 million, you know, we have ESSER $3 in place, 6.3 million. ESSER 2, you know, we've been spending on that with $1 million left in the current budget that, you know, can be recognized in the current year. We have to spend ESSER 2 by June 30. And ESSER 3, you all asked when ESSER 3 needed to be expended, and they did come out with a letter. They did come out with a letter saying that ESSER 3 can be expended by 2024, with the exception of construction.
By June 30th, 2024?
Yes,
Correct.
that's ESSER 3.
Yep, got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
$6 million is what I see back here.
So IDA, you know, we have about 1.5 million in play for that. Michigan Works, 2 million. The title grants, 1.5 million. And other miscellaneous grants in amount of 1.7 million. Coming back to the 15.1 million that we discussed before. And then this is a pie chart, you know, for the visual people. 66% of our revenue is from state sources. 22% is from local sources. No, I'm sorry, federal sources. Local sources coming in at 8% and other grants at 4%. In terms of our expenditure assumptions for 22-23, if you flip to operating expenses, that is about the third page in. It looks like this with the pink line. The pink line represents our fiscal year 2023 final budget amendment with the instructional budget changing by 1.6 million. A total of 34.8 million. And basically, you know, different program changes caused the difference, you know, different additives and different initiatives for the new superintendent in place. In terms of instructional support services, 12.5 million, increase there. You know, one of the reasons, you know, we had some staffing changes there to produce a drop of about $306,000 there in those categories. Let me see, non-instructional support, $14 million roughly, an increase of $600,000. You know, again, staffing changes there, and just supporting the district in some different ways. You know, we had an increase in operational costs to the tune of about $400,000. Being the biggest difference. Community services, and it lists the different activities there. Other community service, that would be where Michigan Works is sitting. That $2.6 million. That's that Michigan Works grant in function code 39. So in terms of facilities, we had an increase there due to some things that we are buying facilities-wise. You know, you've seen a lot of things come to the board in June for your approval, so that we can get, you know, get those things in play and have them available for the upcoming year, and that's the reason for the difference there. If you remember, you know, you just had a lot of things come to you in June. fund equity, according to our last audit, was, as of June 30, 2022, was 17.1 million, projected fund equity of $20.1 million for ending fiscal year '23. This is where we believe we'll end up. And we have a lot of revenue, grant recognition and things to do before that time. Okay,
Trustee Harder.
yes.
It looks like we had a very large amount of unexpected expenditures at the high school. About $1.4 million above what we budgeted in February. What are we looking at there?
Okay, well, in June, we had a lot of different expenditures. For example, we're gonna be buying,
Track resurfacing.
track
that's my favorite.
resurfacing.
That's
We're gonna be-
instructional costs?
Huh?
This is for instruction costs, right, at the high school?
No, instructional, we have not added any, we've actually absorbed through attrition. So we've not added instructional costs to the high school. The only thing that I could see we've added is the bleachers, the track resurfacing, addressing heating and cooling issues.
And then we had a adjustment to the virtual academy. We trued up that budget. The virtual academy budget was projected lower in the last budget amendment than it should have been, so the largest bump there was chewing up, what we have to expend for the virtual academy through the end of the year.
Okay.
You could see the personnel report, we've not added.
Yeah, no, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
That jumped out at me.
It's the virtual academy.
And just to make sure I understand what I'm reading, so
Yes.
on these, when we're looking at the line items,
You know what, if you look at the dark green, that's the fiscal year '23 final amendment
okay,
budget. So it'll say it at the top, on your far right. That's the column you want to consider.
that's how much, that's the final amendment.
That's correct.
And then the gray,
I gave you, that's, that is a year-to-date budget, if you see a gray. And then,
so like on that top, I'm just, to make sure I understand, on this top line that says infrastructure and employment. So it's telling me that we came in $120,247 below the original budget and $1,694 below what?
That's how much you've actually spended. That
Yeah.
year-to-date is actually how much the district has paid out. So year-to-date, the district has paid out, if I'm reading this right, under infrastructure, UIA, unemployment is $1,694. So the green middle is what you've actually, invoices have come in, we've identified that the services were rendered, and we've paid it out.
And that came in $1,694 below what was budgeted.
No, that's how much you've actually paid. That's how much the district has paid in UIA, correct?
yeah. So if you show the dark green at the far right, that is the new fiscal year '23 budget. If you read at the top of the column, the olive color, that's your year-to-date, what we actually paid out.
Okay.
That would
Okay.
make sense, because it's unemployment, and we've not laid off anyone, and anyone that's left the district has left the district on their own to get employment, so why would they
Yeah,
file?
I'm not
for-
asking about that particular one. I'm
Oh, I know,
just
I'm
using it as a
just-
way of understanding.
Yeah.
So we budgeted 120,000, we spent 1,006.
Yeah.
And the far right, you said it's your budget, it's your
The
revenue.
far right and the far left look like they're the same. So it's just saying, okay, I think I see what I'm at.
There's no
So it's, the
subtraction.
far left is saying, out of our total amount in the budget, minus 120 in UIA, minus 597 in employment service, okay. I think
The
I,
middle is what you spent.
the middle is what we
Left is what you
spent.
budgeted.
The right is
That's
the final,
Final budget.
got it.
Right.
Okay.
And see, you all have to consider that we still have bills to pay that's gonna come in between now and August.
I understand that.
And what has to be done, you know, we did a lot of spending in the month of June. And those invoices are gonna come in between June and August. And we have to journal them back to June 30 because we spent it and, you know, the items or whatever were received before June 30, but we just didn't have the invoices to show you the expense at this time. Because it hasn't come in yet.
Yeah.
Even with those, these are the numbers that you're expecting, correct?
This is what I'm expecting,
Even with that?
even with that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, because what I have to do, I have to put enough aside in my budget,
Right.
so when those final bills come in, I can pay for them without my budget lines being negative.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's it for 23.
Anything else on 23? Okay, let's go to 23, 24.
23, 24. All right.
Is this folder that I'm passing out? Oh, okay. Passing it.
Oh,
So we had,
no, we don't have it. They kept that under wraps.
Leave one for Davis.
Davis?
Leave one for Davis, and I'll make sure she gets it.
And then you have these summaries in here for you. You like the summary. Okay, in terms of our 2024 revenue, I am projecting our local revenue to come in at $5.6 million. And
Did I get a copy of this? You gave me these three.
and that includes the lower millage, right?
yes,
Yeah, I don't have it.
I have budgeted our state revenue
You want to make a copy?
at
You have one.
4.1 million. And in terms of my pupil count, we did a pupil count of 3,240 estimate, 3,240. And that's because we're losing our virtual program,
Right.
okay? So I had to account for that.
So that would be a drop of 3,240 is what, 160
You were-
below what we were this year?
While you were 400 and something virtual that came in at the end, you didn't start off at that number. And that was money that came in, and 75% of it went out the window anyway.
Right.
So we weren't being realistic with the numbers. It's like saying, yeah, we got all these virtual schools, and we're getting $80 million. In reality, you're getting 80, you're paying it right back out to the same virtual academy.
Right. We didn't make much on that program.
So 3,240,
Is an increase, we are targeting 100 students, as you recall in our update. If we could get a solid 100 students, that's awesome.
and what assumptions are we making in terms of what the per pupil amount is going to be?
They told us what that was, and it is $9,608.
That's
The foundation allowance.
the foundation allowance that we have this year, or that's what we're projecting for next year?
Next year.
That's what we're projecting for next year.
What was that number again?
9608,
9,608,
What's the
But
current?
that hasn't passed.
9150.
yeah, that's what we're projecting. That's the best projected that they gave us.
Trustee Corcoran.
So right now, we are on the physical projected year for 24, correct? 2024?
Yeah.
Okay. Not 2023,
No.
2024?
We're on 2024.
Okay, all right.
Trustee Smith.
Yeah, so that 100 from the virtual academy, we're we're expecting to have 100 buns in the seat.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
we will, yeah.
100 more children. More students.
Sorry.
When you, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
In terms of our federal sources, federal revenue is going down to 9.6 million. that 9.6 million, we believe from the 21 million that we currently were awarded is gonna be remaining, you know, that we will spend during the upcoming year.
And can I just say something? Even if we only got $1 million, so say we went from 9150 to say 9300, that would more than make up for the virtual students that we lost. So we, to get to 96, and I think I put this in my weekly updates to you before, we're not looking to hire more people because we are operating as such under not such low numbers that we could actually go probably get to 36 or 3,700 students in person and not having to have more core teachers. All we're doing is actually utilizing what we have, and our goal is to start school with no subs. So we're repurposing what we have, and we could really increase and get another 400 students. Easy, without any cost added.
Trustee White.
When I'm looking here at the lines
Yes.
of the proposed 24 budget and comparing it to the final 23 budget,
Yes.
from 311, like the first, they seem like the exact same amount, 17, 310, 680.
Yes, it's
10.
estimates, absolutely. See, one thing about, when we estimate our upcoming budget, you know, we're provided some, you know, they have a template, they don't give you everything. You know, and you key in, you know, what your projected,
Because this is a I'm sorry, I spoke out of
yeah.
turn.
You
This
key
is a
in-
projection, it's not actual.
Right.
Okay.
It's just a projection at this point. And see, they have a template that we can use, and you key it in, you know, you key in your projected fall count, you key in the recommended foundation amount, which is 9608, you know, that comes from the Department of Treasury. And it's not gonna be exact, and we won't know the exact figures until October when everything comes out.
Right.
So
Right.
this is my best estimate.
But
It
if-
is a projection.
But if our Prop A if those lines, the 311 lines, are based on student count, which is different in 23 than 24, and the per pupil foundation, which is different in 23 and 24, how are we ending up with the exact same numbers? 17, 310, 680 for Prop A, 10, 876, 655 for 22B.
See, those numbers, they are my projections, because I don't know the actual numbers that we're gonna have. So that's my best projection. These numbers are gonna change in October, when we actually get the exact figures in October from the Michigan Department of Treasury through our state aid.
No,
So that's this is my best estimate. I understand what you're saying, but this is.
No,
my
I
best
understand that
estimate.
they're projections. I'm asking, why is our projection for 24 the same as the final for 23?
For a couple of lines, they will be, and until they're trued up, that's all.
Okay,
Is Prop A property taxes, or is that state aid?
that's state aid.
It's state aid, and there's
For
a very,
FTE?
you know what, there's a very complex formula. They don't give it all to us. So-
Would your projections be less, or would it could be more, but you're saying it would be no less than 17 million?
Right. You know,
So if it's no less, it's only a win scenario, because when you do a budget amendment, that Prop A could only go up, not go
Well,
down.
It
Based
could
on
always
the
go
actual-
up or down. It depends on what our student count is, and it depends on the budget they pass next week.
But is Prop A only student count?
No.
No, it's not.
It's a very difficult formula, and they purposely don't give us all the elements to it, okay? So this is my best estimate at this time, and that's why districts do a budget amendment, because the numbers, the final numbers will come out in October, along with the count. And these numbers will be trued up, and that's why you do a budget amendment, because this is our best estimate of what's gonna happen. you
Additional
know.
questions?
And there's a myriad of ways that you can come to it. But when it comes to these state aid formulas, they don't give us all the inputs, and they do that purposely.
Additional questions? Dr. Hill, anything more?
No, nope. I just put numbers in the template that they give us to estimate, and then I'll, if I don't know all of the inputs, so I'll look at what the template gives me, and then I will,
If it makes the board more comfortable, we can do an additional budget amendment before your normal one. We could do one in like October if it makes
I'm
you
just
feel
trying to
more.
understand what I'm looking at.
No,
More
I don't
comfortable.
know that that's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think we're just trying to always wrap our arms around it.
yeah. And you really have to wait until the numbers are final. They won't be final until, like, our first state aid payment is in October. The student counts are not even in there yet. So it's 90% fall, 10% previous spring, and they won't even know that in October. Maybe, normally they don't know it until November, December. They're truing those things up.
Right.
Okay? And then that's why districts do a budget amendment, because we do the best we can projecting what we believe that we're gonna get.
And the state won't catch up for that pupil drop until December. And so I already told Edwina and Sharice, we got to notify the state that we are planning for that, because when they're going to give you your October payment, it's going to be based on your spring count, right? And so by the time the state catches up, it'll be in December. So we already know that because I've lived that when we closed down a homeschooling program. So in December, we went without a state. So to anticipate for that, I already talked to Edwina. I said, we need to contact, what's the guy's name at MDE?
Phil Boone.
Phil Boone, to let him know we are anticipating this, but when we're budgeting, we're not budgeting on that number. If you look at the budgets, it's based on 3240? Is it 3240?
Yes. 3240,
Trustee Order.
yes.
Yeah, so, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much. This is very detailed information. I know a lot of work went into it, so thank you. When we talk about projecting our instructional expenses, we are currently in negotiations with our teachers union. Are those projections based on the current contract, or they're based on assumptions about where the contract's going to end up? Okay.
They're based on those assumptions. And Angel told me how much to put in there for the assumptions.
Can we, because we're,
Right.
No, I think we're good. That's not fair.
yeah, yeah,
That's not fair.
yeah.
And then let's talk fund equity. So the last, I think about 4 years, we've budgeted to try and spend down our fund equity.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps growing despite our best efforts to spend it down. And part of that is COVID, and part of that is grants and lots of other things. When we see that number of a projected fund equity of 21 million, and we know there's a lot of need in our district, are there things we should be budgeting for to try and meet
Yes.
those needs?
So I met with, the architects, and I told them, because we had $6 million to do that facility. So my suggestion to them is concrete it, make it a workout facility, and if you recall Wayne State, they have 2 layers
You're talking
of
about the
indoor,
pool?
yep, indoor tracks. What's that?
We're talking about building a field house there.
Yes, yeah, but to really invest in it, and then actually, you really need to invest some more in OPA. So we are looking at, I've talked to them about, you don't want to just blow the money, you want to spend it in something that's meaningful, tangible, and visible, right? So I want the community to be able to see, oh, that's where my tax dollar, they built this, they built that. Things that are are to last a long time. So that's what we're working on. It's a good problem to have. It's not a bad problem to have. We're trying to spend it, but I'm not gonna just blow the money just because it's there and say, hey, you know,
No, but
Rainy days may be coming.
But rainy days may be coming,
Yeah.
but I also suspect that a week from now, we're gonna be asking what other supports we need to provide instructionally for our students to be able to learn. So, are there?
we're budgeting for that. So that's like number one, non-negotiable in this budget, those interventionists, those things. Instruction is at the heart of everything. All the other things are supporting that instruction. We're actually allocated, and I said, and I told every building, I want every kid to be able to go on field trips, absolutely zero cost. That supports the whole child approach, which is in our mission and vision. Our kids don't have the means to pay for that field trip, to get all those experiences. So we're actually budgeting, and we're telling the principals, here's what you're getting, standalone field trips, here's what you're getting for textbooks, here's what you're getting for this. And we've not said no to anything. We've not. So we're working, give us some time to come up with some ideas, and we'll present to you guys in the next few months. Right now, our target is get through the summer to ensure that CASA High School is up and running and all those things, and then our focus will be OPA with your second phase of the bond, and Key needs major money spent on it. So does Einstein and Pepper. So does Oak Park High School. So does central office, but we're going to be last.
Okay. And that's where I think, bringing it back to where we started, in terms of if we're going to be going to the community in November to ask them to pass non-homestead millage. And we also want to, at some point, pass, you talked about combining the sinking fund with our debt millage, I think that was.
Yeah, but we're not prepared. We don't have.
But I'm just saying, there's
Stretch.
only so many times we can go to the community
Yeah.
and ask. I understand that there's a difference between a non-homestead
Yeah.
millage and a sinking fund, but I don't know that the voters are necessarily gonna understand
Yeah.
that, and so we need to think about that. Okay.
Anything else from members of the board? Thank you, Dr. Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we turn on the fan? We don't have AC here. We're on a tight budget.
The
I'm
fan-
sorry.
The fan.
That's unfortunate. Let's see, because I'm gonna have to do this part myself, I think.
So no questions on the 24?
Oh, we had questions.
You guys grilled us on the 23, but no.
You got questions. You want more?
No, I'm good.
Asked about
All right,
that.
we already had
Grilled us on
questions. We already
23,
had
you know, we inherited 23, but.
We've come to the part of the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the board if it so desires. Public participation is one-way communication in which members of the public are asked to address the full board with the understanding that board members are not able to respond. I know Trustee Davis is not here. You have the language that I have in front of me. You have, okay. Trustee Smith, would you please provide the public comment guidelines?
Sure. Because the Oak Park Board of Education values public meetings, not just meetings in public, we welcome public comments on school issues. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner, due process for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by public comments. The public comment portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee that disrupts the order of the meeting and is totally unrelated to the manner in which the member or employee performs his or her duties. The speaker should be aware that if statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, such comments may result in legal liability. Most comments can be concisely stated in 3 minutes, and the board respectfully asks that comments remain focused on the topic or issue and not be directed at specific personnel or board members.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Seeing none, and seeing as how there's no one in front of us at all, so I won't keep asking the same question. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is adjournment. We have our next meeting at 7 p.m. on Monday, the 26th.
Yes.
And so we will be back in this space again at 7 o'clock Monday on the 26th. With that, we will adjourn by unanimous consent unless there's any issue with doing so here at 7:35 p.m. Don't see you.